Today, you may hear some familiar NBA names and you may hear some players you didn't even know existed, but if there's one thing in common with them all, it is their excellence in the game of basketball. That is why we are breaking down the top 10 underrated NBA players. But before we do anything, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new content. Now let's get into it. Number 10, DeMar DeRozan, San Antonio Spurs. Perception of DeMar DeRozan is careening too far in the wrong direction. Mid-range, heavy shot selections are generally frowned upon, and his dip down the league's hierarchy is fueled intensely through the lower peaks enjoyed by his teams. Most of the overarching criticism is fair, even with DeRozan trading in some long twos for above-the-break threes this season. Now, living through his brand of offense is a fragile existence. Relative to the type of talent that must be placed around him to optimize that offense, it is also a limiting existence. But there is a difference between a restrictive player and a non-useful one. DeRozan remains capable of driving an entire offense. His passing out of the pick and roll has improved exponentially over the past half-decade, and he isn't too reliant on reaching the rim to draw fouls. Many defenders continue to get bumped by his pump fakes, with or without three-point volume, playing through. Now, DeRozan is also doable because he's wired to take and make the shot defenses want to give him. He is not rated below the 73rd percentile in mid-range efficiency since 2015-2016. His dependence on the in-between game might be too indicative of how rosters must get fleshed out, but it is still a viable source of regular season survival. Number 9, Kyle Lowry, Toronto Raptors. The lack of appreciation for Kyle Lowry is a recurring issue that feels rooted in a fundamental misunderstanding. No one part of his game powers misconception of his stardom. It is the sum of his skill set. He is what the statistics say: 19.1 points and 7.3 assists per game, league averages, three-point shooting, charge takeover extraordinaire, but his value outstrips any one number, so few players his size are physical on and off the ball. His defense can feel gimmicky from the opponent's eye, but he is an in-your-jersey pest. Point guards aren't supposed to be such effective screeners, especially point guards who are 34 years old and stand 6 feet tall. He was at once someone who can run an offense and operate within a co-star or lower volume complement. Not every big name is this malleable, nor are they so infectious. Lowry gives the Toronto Raptors their identity without confining it. His hustle and versatility set a tone the rest of the team visibly follows. The Raptors have housed better players, and they will do so again. Pascal Siakam might become one of them, but Lowry has shaped their past 9 years more than anyone. Number 8, Kyle Anderson, Memphis Grizzlies. Fully appreciating Kyle Anderson takes an affinity for the details because normal indicators won't do the trick. He did not start hoisting threes with real volume until this season. He is not someone conditioned to look for his own shot. He is not explosive. Absent conventional flash, he has turned deliberateness into an art form. He uses length and space to hang and disrupt on defense. He leads fast breaks with his floor positioning and vision. He uses indirect paths to the basket to get by defenders. Even his improvised decisions after picking up his dribble seem calculated. He sees players he's not actually looking at and cuts to the hoop before they happen. Anderson's limitations will always take center stage. Extra three-point volume renders him more interesting, as he is shooting 41.2% from the corners. But he still takes too many mid-range jumpers. Nearly everything about him goes against what people value most in contemporary wings. And at the same time, that's what makes Anderson so entertaining. He has found alternative methods for filling the box score and impacting games, and in doing so, he has turned into one of the NBA's most useful and uncelebrated players. Number 7, Myles Turner, Indiana Pacers. Myles Turner exists in a weird space. His defensive value is recognized, but it ultimately winds up paling in comparison to everything he's not doing on offense. If we're being brutally honest, this season isn't going to be an agency for change. Turner is taking more threes, but he's downing them at a 28.2% clip. His room for growth is minimal. The Indiana Pacers have never veered farther away from featuring him, and the need to play Domantas Sabonis at the 5 makes it difficult to ensure a much more than 30 minutes per game, if even that many. Number 6, Larry Nance Jr., Cleveland Cavaliers. Larry Nance Jr.'s versatility deserves a brighter spotlight. The Cleveland Cavaliers deploy him as their Mr. Does Everything, a role for which he's uniquely suited for and not yet nationally celebrated. Log minutes on the wing? Sure, he can do it. Defend Ben Simmons? Okay. How about Myles Turner? Yep. And what about switching on to Drew Holiday? Why not? But calling Nance a jack of all trades doesn't begin to describe the depths of his game. He doesn't wear as many hats so much as he wears all the hats. His is a skill set that warrants much more mainstream attention. Number 5, Marcus Smart, Boston Celtics. Navigating the Marcus Smart experience can sometimes take an iron stomach. I want to do anything in life as confidently as he launches heat checks independent of a hot streak. Through it all, though, he remains an overwhelmingly positive player. Smart's offensive lows will never compare to his defensive highs. He is only 6'3", yet is somehow virtually positionless. The majority of assignments include the toughest backcourt cover, but the Boston Celtics don't hesitate to occasionally throw him at larger wings and fringe bigs. No other guard wields Smart's combination of strength, physicality, and craft. He defends like Russell Westbrook plays offense, as a force in nature, but he's more methodical than blunt. His hands are quick and subtle. The turnovers he creates are their own form of playmaking. Number 4, Terry Rozier, Charlotte Hornets. Terry Rozier continues to be penalized for the circumstances under which he joined the Charlotte Hornets. 3 years and $56.7 million is a lot for 2018 to 2019 Terry Rozier. The Hornets don't have that player. Their version is averaging 18.3 points and 3.9 assists while swishing 41.2% of his triples through his first season plus. Charlotte has optimized him in a way Boston never really did. Rozier is starting, but he's not the guy. He's the guy next to the guy. Spot-up threes are the crux of his diet, and he moonlights in pull-up jumpers rather than the other way around. This year, he has leveraged defensive overreactions incited by the threat of his shooting into roomier drives and more frequent trips to the foul line. He deserves more attention for his on-ball defense, too. Everything Rozier is doing should have a forced relitigation of his place in the league. It hasn't. Make no mistake, though, he's not overpaid, he's just good. Number 3, Cameron Johnson, Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns selected him at number 11 in 2019, much to the surprise of everyone, including his UNC teammate Kobe White. It was a reach. It was a mistake. Now Johnson is a steady rotation player on a really good Western Conference team, and currently one of the best, most impactful players from his draft class. And mind you, it isn't just his standstill shooting. He's bearing 38.7% of his spot-up triples, but he's dabbled outside specialist duty. He is comfortable pumping into driving kicks and dribbling around screens and has hit the occasional pull-up. Defense is never going to be a strong suit, but he is quicker than credited when moving laterally and capable of making physical contests around the rim. Number 2, Colin Sexton, Cleveland Cavaliers. Only 5 other players cleared 20 points per game and/or matched or exceeded his efficiency on twos, 50.1%, and threes, 38%, while attempting as many trays, 255. Jaylen Brown, Brandon Ingram, Damian Lillard, Chris Middleton, and Karl Anthony Towns. Discussions instead focused on his playmaking deficit or presupposed his numbers were empty calories. He's not going to average over 25 points per game while draining 50% of his twos and his threes forever, but the essence of his offense is sustainable. He's a devastating shooter who's starting to find his groove off the dribble. Whether the Cavs have an all-star cornerstone on their hands remains a matter of course, but their building block pool isn't nearly as barren as it once was thought to be last season. Sexton is among the primary reasons why. Number 1, Rashaan Holmes, Sacramento Kings. Rashaan Holmes doesn't even seem like he's totally appreciated by his own team. Let him shoot 3, Sacramento. His minutes have dropped ever so slightly as a product of the Kings' crowded front line, his own foul trouble, and probably a smidgen more Hassan Whiteside than needed. Still, Holmes is critical to the best versions of Sacramento. If floor-spacing 5s are the most valuable offensive bigs, he's the next best thing. He has great pick-and-roll chemistry with the guards and nifty floater he uses liberally. Few players work as hard or as efficiently on the offensive glass. Anchoring a top-shelf defense would elevate Holmes' profile, but he's not that guy. He's at least a pretty stout rim protector, which is useful in and of itself when he's so dominant on the other end. Now, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new content. This has been our breakdown of the top 10 underrated NBA players.